So literally fucking moments ago, Nassourdine Imavov beat Caio Borralho in the UFC Paris main event, and I'm going to be here to talk about this whole fucking thing. As you can see, the big man on screen picked up a win, did it in decent fashion, and I actually enjoyed the fight. A lot of people are saying it was quite a boring fight. I actually enjoyed it. There was moments in there that we had kind of in the pocket that made it quite entertaining. It was kind of a fight. It was a real Imavov kind of a fight. It was a real middleweight kind of striking fight. Two lads just kind of, picking their moments at range. I really feel like Caio Borralho really bottled the low kicks, and he really should have shot more takedowns. But then again, he doesn't really shoot that many takedowns. But I feel like Imavov is very good on the feet. He's probably the best striker in the middleweight division. I don't necessarily think he looked amazing. I don't necessarily think he did enough to where the winner of Anthony Hernandez versus Reiner de Ridder is going to be leapfrogged, or he's going to do enough to beat them all, or like he's going to be enough. He did enough. He didn't do enough to be the number one contender. Now, if Hernandez versus de Ridder is a stinker, and if that fight is a shit fight, and maybe de Ridder just sits on him, then we are looking at the number one contender quite clearly. But I feel like we can both agree that Anthony Hernandez versus de Ridder is going to be a scrap. They're both just that kind of guys. I think Imavov actually beats them both. The second best middleweight in the world, if I'm being honest with you. I really think this guy's class. I think he'd beat Strickland in a rematch. I think he would beat Dricus du Plessis. I think he would just find the moments to be able to get it. Now, I do think Imavov has got poor enough grappling. There was moments where there was like a lot of eye pokes and stuff in this fight where Imavov was allowed to recover. So whenever we kind of exert energy, like he had the ability to recover, he had the time to get he had like an extra minute or two after an eye poke or a groin shot. There was a lot of groin. This card was unbelievable, by the way. Like I'd say a solid 8 out of 10 card. Like fucking Harry Hardwick, Reece McKee lost. I'll break down the full card tomorrow, but today I'm just kind of right now. Literally, the fight ended about 20 minutes ago, so I'm just giving my post fight analysis thoughts. The balance of the force, as I guess you could say, of middleweight is still up in the air because we have such a big fight with de Ridder versus Hernandez. Well, this is only one piece of the puzzle. This is half of the story. We need the other half. We need to see what happens there. Imavov has done everything he can apart from finish Brauho, which would have cemented himself. I didn't necessarily think he was going to finish him. When I first saw this fight announced, I even made a video saying Brauho was going to upset the French fans. I love when they go to France. It's just the crowd is electric. Like it just gets me pumped. I love European fight night times, and this was a banger main event to put on. Okay, I was happy with the way the fight went as regards. It wasn't a boring striking fight. Like they were both landing in the pockets at times. Imavov was just landing cleaner and better, when they did exchange. Brauho just kind of seemed to be like, whenever he would, Imavov did well with the counters, and I feel like Brauho really kind of noticed that. Whenever Imavov would kind of land his counters, I feel like Brauho would be a little bit skeptical. He'd probably focus on the low kicks a little bit more before he went back upstairs. He didn't really seem that involved, you know, with engaging him when Imavov was landing heavy, which kind of showed me that Borrello kind of was just not defeated, but he was getting a bit frustrated. He was kind of finding it hard to get his rhythm. I do think that was the case. I just think Imavov is better. I just think Imavov's a better striker. I bet on Imavov the very, very rare time. I kind of feel like, Nassi and Imavov is a bit of a Nathaniel Wood where if you just bet on him as an underdog, it's going to succeed. Like it's going, and it succeeded, man. It fucking succeeded, and I'm happy for Imavov. I actually quite like him. He seems like a bit of a chill dude. I don't really, he's French. I like Imavov. I think he's chill. I like his fight style. I like the way he kind of. I liked Imavov's moments in the pocket in this fight. He had good moments in the pocket, and when he was in the pocket, he did land a lot better than Baraujo. So you can't really complain. You can't complain at all, if I'm being honest with you. When Imavov had the openings, he was kind of taking it. He had Baraujo hurt. He had Brauho hurt in the third, but there was like an eye poke or fucking groin shot. And we all know Nassourdine Bob was going to take his time because he does gas out. Like he does have a problem with gassing, so he was going to take his time. There was no panic with him on his side. But all in all, good performance. Won't say great. Won't even say brilliant. Definitely didn't solidify anything in the division, but he did make a good statement to where if the winner of Anthony Hernandez versus Reiner de Ridder isn't impressive, like the winner of that fight's going to have to be impressive. They're going to have to make a statement. They're going to have to give us something that we just haven't seen before because you've knocked out Israel Adesanya, you've just beaten Caio Borralho. there's no other fight for Imavov to take apart from the belt. He shouldn't have to fight again. The next fight, regardless if it's next or the one after, should be for the undisputed world title. Brendan Allen as well is in there a year ago. That's in a year. He's beaten Brendan Allen, Israel Adesanya, and Cal Baraujo, and he hasn't lost a fight in between them. So the last fight he lost, I want to say was Sean Strickland, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I feel like he could have lost before that, or after, I should say. But all in all, just needed a finish. That's the only thing I could say. And I'll be real, yeah, I don't necessarily have any great desire to see Imavov versus Hamza. I just don't. I just don't think it's a great fight. I just think, Imavov will get steamrolled. Calabarajo is not the level of grappler of Hamza, and I think Imavov would gas out a lot quicker with the amount of grappling that he would have to do. But if you're the number one contender, you're the number one contender. I think he should be next regardless, but the UFC booked Reiner de Ridder versus Hernandez for a reason. Hamza said he won't be in there before the end of the year. He said he's going to be in there next year, which is kind of shit because he didn't take any damage against Hamza. I don't know what these champions were taking no damage are doing, but beats fucking me anyway. Maybe that's why we don't have a pay-per-view in September, because champions don't want to fight. Maybe. Just maybe. Or maybe it's Canelo versus fucking Crawford. So yeah, I feel like Imavov just should kind of stay where he is and see how this plays out, because he could be next in line. There's a good chance he's next in line, because if like I've said, unless we see a stable performance with a fucking brutal finish or just a clean performance to where, yeah, we need to see him versus Hamza, especially in Anthony Hernandez. That's the one I'm looking at here, because if he can shut down the Reiner the Ritter grappling and really light him up on the feet, or even if he and then get a submission, I want to see it. I want to see it because it's more intriguing than the Imavov fight. Even though the Imavov fight's the most deserving contender, doesn't intrigue me. It doesn't get me hyped. It doesn't make me sit there and be like, fuck, like I think this guy can beat Hamza. Like, no, I'm not thinking that at all. I'm not thinking that Imavov can beat Hamza. I just think he just gets ran through. Benoit Saint Denis picked up a fucking win. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow because, listen, it was a good card and I'm hyped to talk about it. But I feel like we'll talk about Imavov because this is obviously the main talking point. But actually, I'll talk about Benoit Saint Denis as well. Let me get his picture up here. So yeah, Benoit Saint Denis picked up a nice submission win. Dodgy enough, I guess you could say, because it was a neck crank. And I thought Mauricio Rufy could have kept going. If you think about it, I thought he could have kept going, because if you think about it, Benoit Saint Denis wasn't in a position to really progress with the way the angle was. If Mauricio Rufy kind of turned his hips, he kind of would have been out, but he would have been in a bad spot on, he wouldn't have been far off mount. Mauricio Rufy, though, like, throughout the grappling exchanges, was able to find success getting back to his feet, all the time. Benoit Saint Denis definitely was heavy grappling in this fight, and probably rightfully so. Just felt like Saint Denis's grappling was actually quite poor as well, as regards his takedowns were very, very predictable. And Mauricio Rufy, if he had any sort of, you know, fight IQ, he would have thrown an uppercut, or he would have thrown a knee, or he would have thrown something at him. And I thought that was just a real bottle from Mauricio Rufy, to be honest with you. But I'm gonna break down the full card tomorrow. I really want to talk about Imavov, but let me know what you think about Imavov and all this down below, and thanks.